Thank you for tuning in to Andronetalks Radio, gathering as one in our sovereign truth from a galactic perspective, exploring our world with new ideas, knowledge, and a promise of a better future. Galactic discussions for galactic-minded people. Andronetalks.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today in Andronetalks Radio. And we have our guest, Bob Wiegand, and he was on here, I think about a week or so ago, and there was a great, really, really fantastic interview. I think we're back for more. We're looking to get more information, learn a little bit more about you, Bob, and understand your background. I mean, it's really obvious that you've been doing some things that a lot of us, can't hardly even imagine, not because it isn't true, but because to get that close to some of these high-profile individuals and, have all of these experiences very interesting to a lot of people. So I just want to say hello to you and thank you. Welcome for being on the show again.
Well, thanks, Jessica. That's really nice. It's the shows people's questions and answers time.
Yeah.
I got really close. I was just a kid growing up in LA. I was born in Huntington Park, grew up in Bell Gardens. That's like the heart of Santeria, Palomayombe, Santissima, the Catholic Church. They're all kind of interwoven together. So as a white guy getting involved in that, it was kind of like, well, that was my neighborhood, so I belonged. It would be like near impossible for, especially a white guy, to walk into that environment and just start participating. It just wouldn't happen. And so, anyhow, as a kid growing up, I grew up as a Mormon, and I was a Mormon missionary. So I had no proclivities towards angels and God and the devil. And I just really didn't know who they were. I was just a little kid. And I grew up in a really violent period, the Watts riots in the 60s. Yeah. And then we're going to the moon and, just really an interesting time. So I went on a mission. I saw like spirits and what we call demons and exorcisms and blessings and, people would call them like miraculous events. And it was just kind of part of life. I really didn't think a lot of it. I got into the Navy. Eventually, I got into the Navy. But prior to that, I was in Hawaii. I was at Brigham Young University in Hawaii. And there was a thing called the Night Marchers, and I could hear them. I could feel them. I never saw them, but they would touch me. And I talked to the locals about it, and they'd be really surprised. It was not something they talk about, especially with haoles. The term haole, everyone thinks it means a white guy or white girl. It doesn't. It means
that's what I thought it meant. What does it mean?
The unknowing one.
Oh, okay.
The one who doesn't know. Yeah, the one who doesn't know. So haole means that's one of those who don't know. And so it's kind of like, that's why they're not like, have no ill will towards us, the Hawaiians. We just don't know. That's about all it is. So after that, I joined up with the Navy. Got a job in the SEAL teams. I was an officer, and I read a lot of stuff. But a lot of the guys didn't want to read anything. They just wanted to go out and work. And I mean, it's just like a bunch of jocks, right? They don't want to read. But I was kind of weird. I read everything I could find. They started locking the safes on me, changing the combos, because I started asking questions. They didn't like that.
Yeah.
So I just learned to keep my mouth shut. And after the SEAL team, nothing real miraculous happened. There were some interesting things that happened in there. But it was nothing miraculous. It was just kind of like I would just call it just an average gig in the teams. Then getting out, I got into like security work, and then eventually into mercenary work. And then I got a gig with all these like retired CIA people. You never retire as a CIA. You just go from gig to gig.
Right.
I got hooked in with all these guys, and then that's when I was introduced to the Committee of 300. I eventually found out that name later on. I had no idea what I was looking at. And I started asking questions like, well, who are these guys? I mean, how do they know what to do? Oh, there's a president. Well, how does the president know what to do? Oh, well, there's these extraterrestrial guys, and they tell them what to do. And I go, but the committee members are the extraterrestrial guys. They go, no, they don't know. They're all following a Luciferian philosophy. Really? And I go, yeah, it's like just kind of how it works here. And so these guys are in the background. I call them the controllers, but there's various names they have. And it really depends on your relationship with them. It's an actual relationship. It's not like adversarial whatsoever. So let me back up and talk about them for a minute. This is going to sound really weird to a lot of people. You see, our whole society and the whole world is based on war, conflict, war on drugs, war on poverty, war on pedophiles, war on Jesus, war on Muhammad, war on the Muslims, war on the black man, war on the white man. I mean, what the heck? After a while, it gets kind of like, what are we fighting for? We're just fighting to fight. It's just fight to fight. You love to fight, let's go fight. And I got tired of it. I ended up in law school and I ended up out of it. And I ended up working in the courts and doing stuff with attorneys and all this. And it was just more of the same. I would go to church and it was more of a conflict, war versus God versus Satan. And then if you do something wrong, they take you to a church court. And then all of a sudden you get shamed to death. And then like, wait a minute, is there a break from any of this? And there wasn't. I don't care where you go, there's no break from it. From the Buddhist monk sitting in a cave, in the Tibetan monasteries, to the heart of Moscow, it's the same everywhere, man. And what I found was people live in their conscious mind. Conscious mind can believe a lie and a truth at the same time. And that's the fallacy of, and when you work in the conscious mind, especially with technology, there's nowhere to go but down. Because there's no guidance. The guidance comes from heart consciousness. And the real message here is heart consciousness. And when you get that, we can get to this in 15 minutes or 150 years. How long do you want to take?
Yeah.
Once you go there, it happens really fast. The problem is nobody knows how to do it. They don't know the mechanics behind it. It's a formula, and that's what's hidden from us. And so now when it's presented in any form, people don't see it. Corey Good is saying very similar things that I am, but he just talks around it. He doesn't tell you how to get to it. If you buy a few things, you're hoping you can find how to get to it in the things you buy from him. But even there, he just talks around it. I got tired of talking around it. I wanted to get to it. So I met a Kahuna in Hawaii. And of the two types of spiritual leaders on the planet, there's really only two that have any longevity, an unbroken chain of more than 1,000 years. The Kahunas of Hawaii and the spiritual leaders of the Aborigines, like up in the Northeast Australia, where I used to live. I used to live there. And these are the only two groups that really have an unbroken connection to the divine. But they don't tell anyone about it because the whole world are a bunch of Hallies, the unknowing ones. I can get into a lot of detail about this. It can go on for quite a while, but I try to keep an overview on it and let people ask their questions, because the questions are flooding into people right now, and they should just write them down. So I'll go simple and slow, allow these people to write their questions. So going back to the Committee of 300, as I was being introduced to them, I called it the Table of 450 because it looked like about 450 people in the room. Not everybody had a seat at the table. I mean, these people had their entourages with them as well. And George Bush sat at the seat, and John McCain was standing to the right of George Bush, waiting for George to die so John could take the seat. Well, they kind of both died in the same time frame within a couple months. Some will say they didn't die. Some will say they did. Doesn't really matter. They're out of the picture. That's all that matters. A lot of things don't matter, honestly. This get into the controllers. The game is tilted to the point where the Earth is in jeopardy of its continued existence because of the Earth human. It's the Earth human doing it. It's not aliens doing it. The spirit of the Earth is about to give up the ghost. I mean, it's a feminine spirit, and she's really, really tired. And in a way, calling out for help. I'll get into that later. But let's stay with the controllers. And what is our relationship to them? That's the question. I'll pose key questions. The question is very important. It'll get you to the source, or it'll get you into the rut. So throughout my life, I had these jobs where I had to ask pointed questions to get to the issue so I could resolve the problem, whether it was in the SEAL team or in legal issues or in other aspects of my life. In fact, we all have those types of situations where we have to pose questions to get to our issues so that we can resolve. When I was introduced to the committee and to these controllers, that just kind of like changed my whole paradigm. I wasn't really about ETs. I figured they were probably out there somewhere, but it was kind of like a mythical thing. I was like the average human. I'm the center of the universe, and Jesus came here to save me. And when I screw my life up, I'll just say, "Hey, I'm sorry. Can you take me?" And I go on to heaven and play harp on a cloud. I really thought that was it, and it turned out.
Yeah, a lot of people do.
Yeah, after seeing these guys, I realized that ain't it at all. So here's some interesting things about the relationship we have with the controllers. They go by many names. It's not one race. It's not one people. It's all kinds. And I'll just tell you how my relationship is with them now, because you're not going to throw them in the dump heap and walk away from them forever and watch them burn and die in hell. That is never going to happen. It doesn't work that way. This three-dimensional world we're in at one time was more in the parallel of a fifth-dimensional world, and then the dark times came, and it was just time. And the game began. We're in a three-dimensional world. We're allowed to really kind of do whatever we want. It's like a playground. It's a testing ground. It's a school.
It's a school.
And so many extraterrestrials that come here from the fourth dimension are just here for that, to play, to check things out, to see how things are going. But realize, in this physical realm and in the physical realm of the extraterrestrials, wherever they may come from, there's also a spiritual realm. And it's going on in the spiritual realm as well. So a lot of people are being born here with certain tasks, things they need to get done. Everyone, if they listen to themselves, they all feel they got something they need to do before they die. Because the game's being played on the other side as well. And it involves a lot of races. So with the, this is a funny story, the extraterrestrial, with these controllers, eventually I became an apprentice. And so I was their apprentice. And then I learned to love them. And then I learned to embrace them. And then I learned that I found great peace and acceptance in the darkness. Darkness is people call it all things: left hand, negative, darkness, evil. It is not evil. That is incorrect.
Right.
Evil
I agree.
Evil is in the human mind. It is not in the darkness. The darkness is neutral.
But that's the dogma and the paradigms that attribute it to be evil. I agree with you. I think it's a contrast and it's a density, but it's not an evil per se.
Human beings invert truth all the time. All the time. For gain, for power, for fame, for money. It's a perversion. And when people get caught up into it, it's stronger than heroin. And that's what's tilted this game off basically it's falling off the cliff. And as I was the apprentice and I learned to embrace them, I learned to communicate with them. And I learned how things were spoken. And they're just as human as we are. They don't live in their heart consciousness. In fact, there's almost an incapacity for them to do that, which is really odd. I never really got into why that is. I just know that it is. I'm sure I could find out why it is if I just started digging into it, but at the moment it doesn't matter. So the game rules were something like this. We come here to be tested, and we are over like a forgetfulness, so that our true expressions within ourselves can start finding ourselves. We can find ourselves within ourselves, and these controllers, these testers, teachers, they're more like teachers. They create the tension between what we call good and bad, dark and light, God versus Satan. So our interpretation of what they were doing became really screwed up. And we lost sight of what the game really is. And we started seeking power. And it's kind of like, they're like, oh, you want power? Okay, they'll take you anywhere you want to go. They're all, and if you extract yourself from the game, they're always kind of like waiting there for you to come back if you want to dip back into it. I don't want to dip back into it. I won't do it. And so I look at them now as the last, there was like a test I had with them, and they basically, after all these things I experienced, I was extracting myself from my apprenticeship. People would call it the dark side. They got all kinds of names for it. I actually went into all that with good intentions. I didn't have like an impure heart. I didn't do it for money. I didn't do it for sex. I didn't do it for claim or accolades or fame. I actually did all those things to help people, because you can help people in the darkness, and you can help them in the light. It's all up to you and how you want to perceive it. And so human beings' perceptions are so twisted now. They'll go as far as you want to go. There's no bottom to the end of this like dark pit. They'll take you as far as you want to go. It's almost as if they were they had told God himself that they would play this role and sacrifice certain things that we have, which is a heartfelt connection to the divine love, as if they agreed to say, we won't receive that so that we can play the tension to help others evolve. And what humans did is they devolved. We're devolving. We're degenerating at a super rapid pace.
Right.
So,
especially with the lockdown and everything, people are pulling away from how to function in many ways.
Yeah, it's actually a good thing. It's allowing people to actually talk to their family and think about things. It was done on purpose.
Yeah.
It will be perverted by the human and inverted and all screwed up like everything else. And it's so funny. On April 1st, I basically was told I could start talking, and that's April Fool's Day. So it's kind of like saying, no, the joke's on you. The game is actually running perfectly, and it's perfectly falling off a cliff. The problem is that we're at a place technologically that we can blow this whole planet to smithereens, to bits and pieces. And if that happens, it'll have a universal impact on the mechanics of gravity and orbits of other systems
Yes.
that will impact the lives of other ETs, and they don't want it to happen. And so extremely highly evolved ETs are trying to come in and intervene on this. And the only way they can communicate with us is through a heartfelt divine love connection. Divine love is an element. It's not like, I love my car, I love my wife, I love my dog, I love my shoe. That's material. That's three-dimensional. A divine love is an element. It's elemental. Like, think of it like love is steel. Anything that's metal is a combination of steel and some other elements, like nickel, or maybe palladium or gold or something. And but it's still, the basis of it all is steel. And that's the element of love, of divine love, is like, think of it like steel, but we can't call it steel because that resembles coldness. And love resembles warmness, heartfeltness. And so all things in the universe are interlaced with this element, which is a real element, which the only way we know how to call it is divine love. That's the only way we know how to name it, because of what it radiates from it. It kind of like vibrates out of it.
Right.
So that's why all things, the rock next to you, the paper in your hand, your hair, everything radiates this divine love in it. So when you go look for it, you find it everywhere. So it's placed in our hearts, but we're just not told about it. It was hoped that with these controllers that we would come after getting hit with the baseball bat across the head, we'd eventually say, maybe that hurts a little and we'll try something else. Like Einstein said, how can you expect a different result when you're doing the same thing over and over? So the unfortunate thing was, in the manner in which these controllers can hook into us, it literally blocks the capacity to get to that divine love placed inside each of our hearts. This interface is really amazing. I have personally witnessed it. It was in my wife, and I had to fix it. And that was 9 months ago. So my life really kind of culminated to where I am right now. Meeting the Kahuna in the last 9 months, I asked for his help. And in the process of doing that, he started revealing his secrets to me about the universe, how it works, what divine love is, who the controllers are, how they operate, how they move around, how the mechanics of the human being and the psyche and the psychology of things work, how the heart works, how the brain works. These discussions in the beginning were like, my brain was like numb. I heard words, but I didn't know what was happening inside me. And what was happening, because he's connected to all these things, including God himself, like the Father, which was really hard for me to understand that. But then as he explained it to me over time, I understand it now. And I'm flooding with things right now. I'm sorry. You can actually connect to the God source. He's a reference. He allowed me to reference him to get to the God source, and I'm allowed to reference anyone who wants to the God source. And it's instantaneous. It takes like just minutes. It's the most fantastic thing I've seen. I've had many people call me. That's why I put my information out, to talk to people. They need to talk to me. They need to call me. I am actually like a mirror image of the Kahuna now. As he spoke to me, I heard mom. It's kind of like Charlie Brown's mom. Wah, 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 wah. And then, but I could feel something happening, and I asked him, what's going on? I can't understand. And he goes, well, it's because the energies of the divine are flowing through me. It's not my words, and they're changing you. I felt my heart being like re-knitted, like the fabric of my heart being completely reworked. It's hard to explain, but I could feel it. And I just allowed, but I could still go to work. I could still do whatever I had to do. I could chase the kids around, jump in the pool, go swim, go to the gym, run down the street, look at the moon. All these things were normal, but this thing was going off in the background. And I asked him, I don't understand. And he said, well, think of it like this. You hit a home run before you came here. All you got to do is run the bases. Swinging the bat is over. It was done before you arrived, because it's a choice experience to come here. That's why so many ETs come here. It's a choice experience. Just that the human are lost touch with their heart. So this is how it works. Now, what I call the controllers, I call them my teachers. I appreciate them. I love them. And I'm being totally sincere. I have nothing but the greatest gratitude for what they've done for me. There is no other way it could have happened. I am amazed at their sacrifice of what they have positioned themselves as for our benefit. It is a pure Christ-like love. And when you get this perspective, it all starts making sense. And this thing about war and adversary and the devil and God and the fighting and we got to resist, it just flushes down the toilet instantaneously. And then you get to your heart within. And then they continue to become your teachers, because now you have polarities. Think of it. You have, well, if I make this choice, well, they're waiting over here, it will go that way. Or okay, these higher beings are over there, I can go that way. Or I can just do nothing and sit. Now you have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
The human being has perverted their mind so badly that they have removed all capability of choice, and they have all culpability for their actions 100%. You can't blame these controllers. You can't blame these ETs. They're just doing what they are within their nature. They're acting and performing perfectly within their individual creations that were created by God. They're not doing anything wrong. What it is we're inverting and perverting the very opportunities that are being given us to grow from. So this is how it works. In the day when all this started, it appears to me that these controllers, I just use it as a general term because that's what people will relate to. We're here for our attention, to create tension for us so that we could have choices. And we would see the outcomes of good choices and bad choices, and we'll keep it really simple. And in the process of that, as we started making more and more bad choices, because, it's kind of a kick here, you can do whatever you want, they started feeding on it. And it's kind of like a adrenochrome for them. They literally can tap into the back of your neck, into your cerebellum and your autonomic nervous system and your spinal cord. They can tap into your bloodstream through your heart, or just above your heart in the aorta area. They can put hooks into you or throughout your body in your key, I guess you would call it acupuncture points or chakras. But basically what happens is they can get into your mind, they can get in your subconscious, they can get into the imaging that comes across inside your eyes when you see images, or like when someone's talking, you see kind of, they get into your dreams, they get into your ears. They can completely robotize you and almost remote control you. And that has to do with the human being asking for it. You asked for it, you got it. A lot of these
People resign to be here. So even though they're physically here, they step out of the body a bit. And I've had to deal with a lot of people and that through depression or trauma or sadness or divorce or loss of a loved one or whatever it is, and they just literally, you see the body and then you see this other part of them literally pulling out. And so when you resign from being in the body, that's when something has to animate you, keep you going. It animates you in a way.
You're absolutely right. I used to be out of phase with my body for years because I didn't want to be here. I tried to leave. I did what I'm doing right now. When I'm talking to people, I knew I had to do this before I was born, but I didn't want to do it. So I fought it. And so in the midst of fighting it, I had a really hard life. It's not even worth talking about. It's just like, you wouldn't believe me. It's just like I don't know. It's like getting run over by a train every day. It was really awful. And when I finally resigned and said, there was some reasons why I resigned and said, okay, a couple of months ago, And then everything started changing for me. Things started getting a lot calmer, a lot
You,
better.
you had some near-death incidents?
Yeah, when I was 9, I was in fights in LA, and they broke my shoulder, and I was getting it reset, and I jumped out of my body, and I wanted to go home. I saw that tunnel, and I wanted to go. I went in it, and I was going home, and a guy showed up, and he goes, "Where are you going?" I'm going home. He goes, "No, you're not." And I go, "Do I have free will?" "Of course you do." "Then I'm going home." And he hit me on the head and threw me back in my body. And I was like, at 9 years old, I realized I didn't have free will. What did I do? So at 14, from 9 to 14, I was like finding it without suicide. I was finding any way I could get out of here. And finally, it opened up in my head. I had walked up to this guy that was really wise before born. And he said, I said, "Man, I want to be like you." And he goes, "Well, it's going to take you 1,000,000 years and on and on and on." And I go, "I don't want 1,000,000 years. I want to do it now." And he looked at me and he goes, "Okay, follow me." And I stepped forward, and that was my contract. And he took me to a group of guys that were in a circle, and they were looking at planets one after another, where to send me. And I'm like, "I like that one. I like that one." And I could tell you the planets, could tell you who was on them. It was really cool. You could look at the planet, look into it, and you can stand right next to somebody and then come zoom right back out instantly. It was really interesting.
Wow.
And then they came to Earth, and I started looking all over the Earth. I was looking all over the planet, like, where's there a cool spot? And it was war, death, mayhem, bombs, killing, and all this stuff. And I'm like, "Dude, I want to go there, man. That's bad. I'm not going to get anything there." And they go, "You're going to grow faster there than you will anywhere else." And they go, "I don't want to go there." And they go, "No, you're going there." And they go, "Why are you sending me there?" And then they showed me as a white light on top of the Earth, as like kind of like a shining light. And I said, "I don't want to do that." Bye. Like, it was
Well, when you said the first one that you talked to when you were 9 years old, do you think that was you telling yourself to come back here?
Yeah, it was.
Immediately, I felt like that was you.
That was me.
Yeah.
My spirit has been guiding me this whole time. In 1995, in April, I put a gun in my mouth, and I pulled the trigger. And it's a fine gun. There's nothing wrong with it. It fires every time. And my spirit came to me and said, "You can take it with you, or you can leave it here." "What do you mean?" "Well, if you take it with you, you won't be able to get rid of it on the other side. It's very hard. You'll have to come back again and again, and you'll pile on more stuff on top of it, and you'll never get anywhere. Or you can stay here and do the hard thing. No, you can get rid of it." And I said, "I'll stay here and do the hard thing." And then I had pulled the trigger, and the gun didn't go off. And then after that was a series of 10 years of post-traumatic stress counseling. I was out of the SEAL team. I just got out like 2 weeks prior. And
what made you want to do that?
When I got out of the SEAL team, I was hollow inside. There was nothing in me. I was the most awful experience in the world. I'd rather be seeing my arm cut off and tortured than the feeling that I had inside. I wanted to escape it so bad, I was willing to blow my brains out. It was awful.
Was that because of the missions and the things that you had to do?
Yeah, it's because of stuff I had to do, man. It just emptied me out. It hollowed me out. It was awful.
Yeah. I mean, I noticed that with people that I've met that have done a lot of military. There's this kind of resign, like, yeah, you did things that if you had a choice, you wouldn't have done it.
Never.
Yeah.
And so, anyhow, not getting farther than that, it was 5 years later that I ended up working for the members of the Committee 300 and learning all about that stuff and the controllers. And it was another choice I had. I could go with them and continue on down the rabbit hole, or I could extract myself. And I asked, "How do I extract myself?" And they said, "Well, just the guide told me, just look at the light, stare at it with all your heart and might." And so I did, and I extracted myself. And then, of course, I run back to the Mormon church. And then, of course, I run into Pleiadians. And, of course, I start doing all kinds of stupid stuff because I can't help myself. But I have a good heart. I really want to help people. I get in Pleiadians, and I'm thinking, dude, I can really do a lot of help for people. And all they wanted to do is, like, mess people up. And I spent my whole time talking to people how to do dark stuff. And finally, I had to leave. Man, my godfather, he really got bad. He really went off the deep edge. And so I had to do it. So
it's when you start playing around with the spirit world, it can go in any different direction. The spirit world.
based on
It's
your
based
heart.
on what? On the
your
heart. Yeah, but it's still it's almost like quantum space.
You're not a victim.
No, but there's things that are unexpected can happen in
Oh,
those
sure,
spaces.
yeah.
It's not like here. Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. There is no difference between here and the quantum space. It's all happening at once. The quantum space is
Right.
going on all around us. The
But
controller.
the laws of the way that our construct is here, the laws that how are different. Like we have gravity here in a way, they have something different. You know what I mean? Maybe you're talking about a mirror reality or like so when you're doing
Yeah.
working in the spirit world, right? I mean, someone could just show up out of no, like who's that? You know what I mean? There's no parameters.
Yeah, there's no locked doors.
No. Here you
So
say,
if
hey,
you want,
stay out of
if
my
you want to
space.
stop,
There, you're in their space.
so if you want to stop all that, there's a way to stop it all. You go to higher laws. Now, how do you go to higher laws? You got to get to the fifth dimension or higher. It's not the fourth dimension. How do you get to the fifth dimension or higher? How do you get to these higher laws? You do it through your heart. You do it through divine love. And that's how you get to these higher laws. There's no other way to do it. And people don't know how to do that. And what I found is that when a person gets to this divine love in their heart, they usually need a reference, like a tuning fork, so they can move towards it, because it's not available in the conscious mind. And that's what the Kahuna was for me, my tuning fork. And then that's what I became, a tuning fork for others. And then as these negative, we were talking with when a guy showed up, and I had a conversation with him, and he had to leave. So you understand this very well. I think it's a very difficult. I would not want to go into a seminar where I would teach people how to do this, because it's nonsensical. Mm-hmm. The only thing that matters is getting to the divineness within the heart, this divine resonance, which is creation itself. And that catapults you into a higher set of laws, the fifth dimension or higher. And all other laws are subordinate. The ETs, the controllers, other people, this three-dimensional plane, they're all subordinate to these higher laws. So once you get there, how do you stay there? You stay within that divineness within your heart. It's like a perfect love. And when you get to these more advanced ETs, they communicate through their heart. They don't communicate with their head. It's all heartfelt. Oh, they're
and it's
smart.
telepathic. It's telepathic typically.
It's energetic. I'll use proper terms. It's energetic. We use terms like telepathic, and we fool ourselves in thinking we know what that means, and we don't. There's two forms of telepathy. There's spiritual and there's physical. The physical is like around the planet, maybe the moon. The spiritual is end to end of the universe instantly. So they're different. So we have to use proper terms, and we get those when we get to these higher laws. You start having realizations, and it takes work. For example, this is a very good one. People use the word materialize. I'm going to concentrate and have that materialize. The true word is realize. Realize. That is a word that describes perfectly one of the very few English words. English is a lousy language. One of the very few words that actually resonate with the actual action. Realize. Okay. Materialize. I don't know what that means. It's just talking about, I don't know, pile of junk. But realize the deal. Materialization. Okay. I don't know. They don't really mean a lot. Realization means something. So when we get into these, when I started getting into this higher state of resonance through my heart with the Kahuna, the words started changing that I used. That's why you see me looking around. I'm searching for the words to describe the things that I am experiencing at the moment as I'm talking. So I don't want to go too far. The more I talk, the more it dilutes it. It becomes nothing. So.
Not really, but maybe you feel that way.
It does, because it's really simple. You know, what am I going to do? Talk around it or connect you to it? What do you want? You want to be connected to it, or do you want to talk around it? I can
Connected
talk around
to
it
it.
for a billion years. I could talk around it.
Right.
Connect. So, do you want the 15 minutes or the 150 years? And that. I pose that to everyone. Do you want to do it now, or do you want to do it 150 years from now? Everybody says they want to do it now. In that case, it's not a lot of words, man. I just look. I look into my heart, and I look in there, and I start looking at it and asking, like, so what do you really do? And then impressions come up, and then I just kind of like talk them out or play them out with the Kahuna, and then he directs me, and then I have realizations, and then connections start to happen, and then it's kind of like a flow. It's just an energetic flow. It's not the words I say, it's the energy behind them. You know, what fascinates people is not the mechanics of who the controllers are. I mean, go to Corey Good, go to anyone else. They'll tell you, they'll talk around it all day long. I'll take you right to it. What's the difference? I don't like talking about myself, but I have to get people to see. I'm just a reference. I'm like a tuning fork. I've been tuned, and that tune is available to anyone that wants it, and that's the way it's supposed to work. So let me tell you what's going on in the planet. My role at this time is to take this resonance that this Kahuna found and to take it out to others, to create a resonance that these higher dimensional beings can resonate with, and begin a slow process of turning this ship away from the edge of the cliff. There's no other choice. And in order to do that, it appears to me that the controllers have recently agreed to allow them to be exposed for this process to take place. Because if this earth ends, they end as well. They end too. We end and they end. And the game must go on. It must not end. It's a learning ground, a training ground.
It's a beautiful place. We don't appreciate it.
Well, it's like when you destroy a mountaintop, and prior and before, the difference is the duality of the two is so extreme. How come you can't see anything in between? And that's happened to humans. They can't see what they're doing anymore. They're literally blind. They're the Halley. They can't see. They're the unknown ones. So what do I say now? This fabric needs to be put around the planet like an electromagnetic grid. It allows these higher dimensional beings who are not the ETs coming here. Any ET coming here is coming here to play the game. They're not coming here to resolve anything or fix anything. They're just getting involved in it. And they all say the same thing. The humans are like a freaking fleas on the dog's back. They need to be brushed off. They're ruining the game. They all say that.
Yeah.
Billy Meier says that. Here's the thing about Billy Meier and the Plejarians. There's no heartfelt connection. They never tell you about the divine inside your heart. They never tell you that. I've studied their materials, man. I was on that gig for 15 years. Friends of mine have been in the gig for like 30 years, and we're all seeing the same thing. The Plejarians lie. They don't have it. They don't have this divine connection. They have technology. They have smarts. They have lives. They have changing their DNA, whatever. They don't have the divine in them. If they did, they wouldn't be here. They wouldn't be able to communicate to us. They wouldn't even be able to like walk in our house. And just the coarseness of it is so extreme that it really is distasteful to these higher level beings. They don't hate us. They have compassion for us. They just can't stand being around us. They can't even communicate with us. It's impossible. So as we go within that elemental divine love within our heart, we rise to these higher dimensional laws, and then they can communicate with us, and then we don't have to do anything. Because as we do that, our choices and decisions naturally realign to the best outcomes for this planet. It happens naturally. People don't have to do anything. Look, I told you, we hit a home run before coming here. This was all set up. We were all set up with everything inside us.
Everything that we need.
Everything
we need.
That's why I called it the rule book. We got the entire rule book inside us, locked away in our spirit. And the way we get to our spirit is only with our heart. That's the only way. And I can tell you, I have read till my ears turn blue, till I just fall asleep now, thousands of pages of Billy Meier material, the red books, the spirit teaching books, and they don't tell you this. In 5 minutes, I can tell you what 15 years never told me. The Billy Meier group has turned into a cult, just like anything else. 2 or more people coming together in this world, it just ends up in a cult. Whenever we do like spiritual work for another person, we're really only giving them a kickstart. They end up falling right back into their stuff again, and we pull them out again. And what a great business profile that is, man. It's like toothpaste. You're needed all the time, and you can make a living at it. And when these people do it, they end up just talking around stuff, and they completely lose how to get to this divine elemental love in their heart. They basically have maybe a few skills, maybe one skill, and that's it. They're done. They don't move on. So
I think some people, they pick up something along the way from all the different people that they're interacting with. And you learn something, though. There is an interplay of even those that are, even Billy Myers. Whatever you had to see there was an interplay of what you became now. And
this divine love in the heart is not in humans. It has to be introduced to humans. It's not there. So the search I had all these years and getting into all these deals was looking for this component inside me, and it wasn't there until I found the Kahuna. Look, I'll just tell you what he told me. He said that this jewel, this divine love element, was placed in his heart before his birth. He was set up for it to begin with. And in his birth and in his bloodline over 1,000 years long, Kahunas that has never been broken, he perfected love within his heart, and he unlocked that divine love element within him. And as it resonated out, he was able to pass it on. And in so doing, he passed it on to me. I'm not the only one. I'm the only one doing something about it. Because of my background and my experience, I have been set up. You can't fool me, man. You can come to me and say whatever you want. You lawyer, you doctor, you politician, you general. You can't fool me, man. I've been there. I really have been there. So I'm not one that can be fooled. What I can be is a ding-dong that wants to go speed down the road 110 miles an hour and crash into a brick wall. But I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be stupid. So as I found that I was kind of set up in a way that he's basically told me I was set up before to do what I'm doing right now. Who moves to? It doesn't matter.
Who moves to what? Hawaii?
I don't want to get into it. It's just a wasted conversation. It's talking around the subject. I want to talk at it.
Okay.
The divine love element in his heart is a gift to the world, and it passes. It's like a virus. It passes on to other people, and so all I am is a bridge, a lily pad you walk across to get to the other side. I am nobody, and so in order to be able to pass this on, it's like the ancient stories of the diamond in the rough, the one with the pure heart. I have a pure heart. I always have. I never tainted it in anything I did. I did all things with good intentions. You realize in Pano, Wyoming, my godfather made like $40,000 a month doing witchcraft for people, and I never took a dime, and I refused to take a dime. I wouldn't do it. And just on an interesting note, for some people who are in Pano, Wyoming, my spiritual father was Temple Tierra, and my spiritual mother was Madre de Agua, the mother of the ocean. And Temple Tierra would be like Jesus Christ, the man on the top of the mountain at midday. So he said that's very rare. You're able to work with all the spirits. You can go to the depths of the darkness or the heights of lightness. And he had to find a way he had to like handle me differently than the others in the house. We call it the house, the covenant, whatever you want to call it. We just call it the house. So that was a very interesting thing, that I could put my foot in the light and the dark at the same time on the edge of a razor blade and not be cut. It's because I wield the blade. The controllers are there to sharpen the blade. Every time they show up, I learn more. So they're teaching me, and I appreciate that. So when things are brought in their proper perspective, this alignment to the divine love within us starts to turn on. It's all perspective. And as this, there's no end to it. A person can stop anytime they want, but so where do you stop? You stop where you look. If you want to look towards God the Father, or Father in heaven, or it's not Jesus, it's just the Creator. If you want to look at Him and go to Him, then you'll go all the way. So you go as far as you want to go. This is really the path. It's an individual path. We can share it with someone. We can connect them to it. It's really up to them at that point what they do with it. There will be a time, it appears, that the controllers will show up and they'll test you. And in my test went like this. So this guy's inside my wife for like 30 years. And all kinds of manner of nonsense going on in my home for years. And is it my son? Is it me? Is it like, and she was always saying, it's you, it's your son, it's this guy. And I'm like, whoa, I'm looking all over the place. And I realized one day I laid next to her and I saw inside her, I go, there's a guy inside there in the cerebellum and autonomic nervous system of the upper spinal cord. It just goes down. It cuts off the upper 5 chakras. 1, 2, 3. We have 7 chakras. So the upper 4 chakras are cut off and the lower 3 are turned on. And that's how this hijack does. It like disengages the upper 4 chakras.
Correct. Yeah.
And so, they can't live in the upper 4 chakras at all. They're not designed for it. So when you go to the divine love, they boot out immediately and they can't deal with it. And then you basically say, look, I'm not alone in this, man. I'm now connected to the divine and I'm working with the higher laws. And if you want, which is the higher chakras, and if you want to like break these laws, you're not dealing with me. You're dealing with the divine. So you can go or you can go in pieces, but I let you go in love. And they said, then we want you to call us the honorable ones. And I go, why is that? And they go, because we obey the law. And that's what we want you to tell people. And so their real name is the honorable ones. They're honorable. They really are. And I love them for it. They have their role and they play it perfectly. What's going on Earth, this pandemic, it's all going perfectly. It's perfect. There's nothing imperfect about it. Creation does not create imperfections. It creates opportunities. Tremendous opportunities lie within this. So I think I've said enough on all that. Any questions you have, I'll answer, and then we can go on with some other stuff that people have written in about.
Well, the first question came from Erin. She said, Jessica, I'm so happy you did this interview with Bob. As you know, I watched the interview with Carrie, and it resonated greatly. I literally had goosebumps within the first 5 minutes watching today. The part about people closest to you getting hijacked. Wow. Jessica, we've talked about it at great lengths, but now I was able to see how it happens. It brings me great peace and comfort. Foremost, I think I may be able to begin to forgive and move on. I feel like one part of my life has been conquered, per se, and I'm ready to move on to my higher purpose. Thank you both. Crazy when you start to allow your spirit to guide you. It brings you exactly where you're meant to be. And this is our time. We must fight for our sovereignty with great gratitude, Erin. So it was kind of like, people getting closest to you, getting hijacked. I don't know. I mean, she says some, it was just not less of a question, but more of her experience of listening to some of the things that you said last time that we discussed various topics. So anything you want to respond to that?
Yeah. And when I'm talking to people, I have a sort of a capacity to see inside them and see what's going on in their mind and their fabric. It seems to come with the territory when you move into this divine love element. It tends to have a resonance that allows you to see clearer. I see clearer with these on. So with the divine love resonance, I see clearer too inside. There's nothing to fight over. There's no idea of sovereignty. All beings throughout the universe, no matter where they are, what level they're at, all have a desire to be interconnected with others. And really that's it. It's really simple. So this idea of sovereignty is more of a collective. The other thing it has to do with like this idea of survival of the race, survival of the species. It appears to us at this low level that that's what we need to do, but really what it is all beings want to be interconnected through the divine.
Right.
Because that resonates us back home. As far as a fight, there is no such thing as a fight. You're only fighting yourself. Gratitude is a beautiful thing and should remain. There's nothing to forgive because there is no judgment here. That's what people have to realize. When a person initiates a judgment, they basically think of it like the karma off the other person and take it onto themselves. They have to forgive themselves for doing it. They have to let it go. So we're doing it to ourselves. The way the design is that it would do it to ourselves. We're basically like one person in a boxing ring with their leg tied behind our back, punching ourselves with our arms and our head, trying to hop around at the same time. We're doing it to ourselves. Moving on. It's not moving on, it's moving within. So see how these terms are very important? The terms can set and lead us off astray. 1 degree off and you're lost. Just give it a little bit of time. The resonance in herself, that the physical experience she's having is not really from me. It's coming from this resonance, this elemental divine love. It's coming from that. I don't have. I'm just a guy, man, and I'm no different.
But you've been through a lot. You've been through an awful lot. So, and when you've come that close to the fire, I say, that's when you start having those epiphanies.
Yes.
It took me. I had mine in the Badlands. I remember I stood all the way out into the edge and I looked down and I said, I knew everything was off in my life. I was married to someone I shouldn't have been married to. And I was standing at the edge and he's yelling at me. He thought I was going to jump. I don't know why. I never talked about suicide, but it was euphoric. It was euphoric just sitting there and looking over at this magnificent, beautiful landmass that dipped down, and it literally looked like a sponge to me with all these brilliant, beautiful colors just striped. You know what I'm talking about in the Badlands?
Yeah,
it has all those beautiful
I call it
minerals, right?
Yeah, I call it blending. You were blending with the energies of the environment.
It was so magnetic that I stood there and I took it in. I think my spirit just jumped down and bounced like a trampoline. It was wild. It was a great feeling, and I turned and he was like yelling at me, and I said, "I'm getting a divorce." And I just said that was it. I knew at that point that I was not living my life. I was in a space that I wasn't supposed to be in. Somehow right. That I got into that space. And I'm not saying that I was angry at him for yelling at me, but I realized that it was time for us to separate, and I needed to spread my wings or do whatever it was. And the whole part of us getting together, I felt was almost like unnaturally created.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you're with the wrong connection or whatever, but it was nature that brought me into that place.
So look at it like this. It's not a wrong connection. It was the perfect connection because it taught you something. You learned something from it. That was the idea behind it. My dad left when I was 6 and I never saw him until 32. And I was really, I don't know, you go through all the things when your dad doesn't want to talk to you anymore. I never see him. I sent him a picture. He wrote it back unknown on it. It was really like, okay, I'll stay away. And what it did is it made me I had to find a father. I really went to God because they kept calling Father at church. And so I started talking to him as a little kid growing up. And you know what's funny is the Kahuna has the same story. And so
wow. Did he not have a father growing up?
His father was present, but his father was like, it wasn't even a relationship. It was like the Kahuna felt unwanted. And so the Kahuna was ignored, which is worse than not having one. At least I could have a fantasy of a father, of what he was. The Kahuna had a bad experience. But later on, he talks to, his father dies, and he talks to his father on the other side, and he goes, "You son of a bitch, you know, you really treated me like shit." And his father goes, the Papa E. They call him E. God is E in the Kahuna terms. And so Papa E shows up and he says, "Hey, he was your perfect father, because if he had not acted the way he did, you never would have come to me to begin with. And it was set up that way so you would come to me." And that was the same with me. And so I've had extremely bad relationships with women. I mean, they were just been thrown in jail. The divorces, I had a divorce that went longer than I knew the chick. I had one that was my son's mother and this ex-wife teamed up together, got a lawyer, and they went at me for like 7 years. And I hardly ever saw my son. And that was just the beginning, man. I have more horror stories than that. But all these women taught me great lessons of composure. And I did not allow my heart to darken. I never retaliated against them. I never wronged them, harmed them, or spoke evil or ill will of them. Oh, inside myself, yeah, I said a lot of things inside myself, but I didn't verbalize it. And what it did is it really honed in my character. And what it did is it forced me to get a grip on the post-traumatic stress I was suffering when I got out of the military. And I had severe post-traumatic stress issues.
Yeah.
And I had to deal with that in the midst of these battles in court and visitations and all that stuff. And in so doing, I healed. I don't know. I just got better. So it was done for a reason. You know, I appreciate what they did for me. What was really odd is that when I got with them, they were really great people. But as I got to know them, boy, they turned into like demons. And then I realized, oh man, they were hijacked all from the beginning.
That was part of the question. That was part of the question about hijacking.
Yeah.
So we kind of did a full circle, and yes, that's what it is.
Another one that was hijacked. So on these controllers, man, like you start going down this road, you got two choices. Either do it by yourself on a mountaintop, or that if you're with your family, you start heartfelt connecting with your family immediately, because they're going to go after your wife. They're going to go after your kids. They're going to go after the weakest link, and they're going to mess them up. I mean, really mess them up to create chaos in your life. Another word I have for them is chaos creators. The idea of controllers is not because everybody wants to be a victim. The devil made me do it. I was out of my mind at the time. You know, I skidded on a wet spot when I was drunk and I hit a lady and killed her. It wasn't my fault. I skidded on a wet spot. So that's why I use the term controllers, but it's the incorrect term. They're chaos creators. It's what they're supposed to do. That's how the game is played. Learn the game, man. And then go to higher rules. Go to a higher set of rules in a higher dimension through your heartfelt consciousness of that element, divine love. And then you'll end up with a different set of rules. And with those rules, you basically have these guys move along, and they don't bother you anymore. But they'll bother your family, your kids, your wife, your husband. And as you move through this path, you have two choices. Go live on a mountaintop or start connecting with your family. You don't have to preach them, tell them what to do. I mean, I'll show you how to do it. It's really simple. After my wife, this guy that hijacked her, man, I moved him out so fast. He was standing there at the edge of the bed, mad, man. He was so mad. He was like, I didn't even have time to call my boys, and he just booted me out. What is this? I didn't even get noticed. And I'm like, I looked at him and I go, dude, I'm sorry, man. I didn't know. I just happened. I didn't even know you were there. And I moved into his space. Like my heart felt
Who was it? Who was this
Well,
guy that was hijacking your wife? Who was
yeah,
it?
my wife. It was a man in black. Men in black.
Oh, a
The
man
man
in
in
black wanted to hijack your wife.
Dude, the men in black do all kinds of stuff, man. You think they
Wow.
just walk up in a black car and knock on your door, don't do that, and drive away?
Well, I thought sometimes it's different
They're
ones that show up, but
the men in black, along with a lot of other races. I use the word controller because it's just a general term for all the races. The men in black are doing the same thing. They're playing the game here too.
yeah, I've not had any serious or bad incidences with them, but they will show up if you kind of do something.
Well, I can call them. I mean, it's like a phone call. I can call them. They'll come out. I mean, I know who they are. I mean, I was an apprentice. I was their apprentice. It's not like I'm unfamiliar with them. They know who I am. I'm not hiding from them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just under higher laws. And I have to bring my family along with that. And the way I do it is like this. When I lay down at night with my wife, I put my hand over her heart, and I pull her into me. And I connect. I just intently connect. That's how I got this guy out of her. I just did that. Now I do it every night. When we watch a little show like Airbenders or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
My son, I have a little boy and girl. My son will lay on me, on my leg, and I'll play with his hair. I'll tug on his ear. And then my little girl, she puts her legs on me and her head on my wife's lap. And I'll put my hand across my little vase for her, and I'll hold my wife's hand. And now we're all connected. And what I do while we're watching the movie is I allow that divine elemental love, because it's a term used for an element that has an emittance from it. It emits like plutonium emits radiation. It emits. And so as it emits, I emit it into with and around my family, and it has a realigning effect automatically, naturally. You don't have to do anything, man. You don't have to work for it. You don't have to raise your vibration. All this BS about all these people telling you got to do all these things. I mean, they're liars. I'm telling you, they're lying. Or they're talking around the subject. They don't know what they're doing. They don't even have the experience. They just know about it, or they're told about it, or some being is coming in like Billy Meier and the Plejarians. Let me tell you about it, Billy. Okay, let me write it down. But there's no heartfelt connection. It's like it's not in their paradigm. It's almost like their creation.
Their story. That story is kind of. I know what you're saying. It feels very literal and very like there's lacking emotion of some sort.
Exactly. What is the highest, most valuable thing of the human condition? There are a lot of races here. They're different colors. They're different genomes. They have different types of nervous systems and resistances to viruses and disease, as though they came from other planets. So what is it in the human condition, in this particular human condition, that makes us, like, how would I say, reclaim some dignity in the intergalactic frickin' universe, in God's eyes, and all those who are in higher dimensions? What is it about us that we are able to reclaim our dignity with them? It's this ability that we have within our heart that was set up before we came here. So we hit the home run before we came here, is this divine love, this obtaining connection, the ability to obtain this connection of the element of divine love and its radiance moving in and through us, bringing us to a higher set of laws and dimension, which interconnects us to those who cannot come here, but they connect here through us. The ability for us to create a network throughout the entire planet. All I have to do is be with people, and it just starts passing on. I can do it on the phone. I can do it. I can do it with my voice. They have to hear the voice, or I can do it in their presence. And I can do it in less than 15 minutes. Because what I'm doing is I'm just kind of like tuning them. I'm like, because I see in their head, I see their subconscious, their conscious, I see their fabric, I see what they are, and I start just helping them and tuning it. And then once they hear it, it's like a tone, ding. And once they hear it off me, I'm a reference. Now you got it. And then from that point, the relationship changes, and I'm just answering questions. And then they can experience it. It becomes experiential. And that's really all it is. It's just a really cool experience within ourselves. You don't need to meditate, and spend 4 hours a day on a mountaintop. You're wasting your time. You know, I'm going to be honest with you.
You think that's wasting? I don't know if I love to meditate. It really helps me a lot. It's not wasting your time, but it's
a waste of time. I'm being totally honest with you. It's a waste of time. Go do something
I love
else.
it though.
Go play cricket. I'm serious. You get more out of, you know what? You'll get more out of working in a garden, digging a hole to put a little seed in to grow a plant, than you will sitting there.
Yeah, but that's your experience. No, I have to disagree with you. It's really relaxing to me. I really enjoy it. To each his own, right, Bob?
No. This stuff is mathematical. It's formula. It's a formula.
All right, so what do you say to replace meditation with?
If you want to go change the formula, you're going to get something else. You're not going to get this. I'm just telling you about how to connect to the elemental divine love. I'm telling you how to do it. I'm telling you what it is. I'm telling you that you need a reference for it. I'm telling you that humans have the capacity to receive this tone in them, but they're not born with it. And you can meditate all day long, but you ain't going to get there. It has to be almost transmitted. And once it's there, it's there. And all the meditation you do in the world ain't going to get you there. It's just not available. The condition that we have been put in this planet is such that to obtain it is impossible. It was placed in this Kahuna on purpose to begin the process of the transmission, the admittance, and the transference of this, I don't know, energetic quality, this tone that can go inside people's hearts, and it's instantaneous, and it's a transference. And once someone gets it, they can give it to someone else, and they can give it to someone else. And you know what? Because this works on higher laws, on higher divine laws, these controllers have no say in the process. They have to stand back and allow it. And they want it to happen because the earth is, we're going to take it to oblivion on this path. And sooner than later. And that's why it appears to me that just recently they have allowed me to openly speak about them and reveal the game. Not everyone's going to hear it, but enough are to hopefully keep this thing going instead of watching it crumble into the dust. Because the game has to keep going.
Why do you think that they're allowing you to talk about it now?
Because my perspective on them is correct. I love them. They're my teachers. I appreciate everything they've done for me.
Well, is there like a time? Is it something in the clock? Or is there something in the calendar? Something in the world?
Yeah, April 1.
April 1st. That's just it.
April Fool's Day. The joke's on you. It's God's sense of humor. This is coming from the source. This is not like me I've been trying to tell this message for a long time. And every time I spoke up, even if it was to an individual, I got my butt kicked in bad ways. I mean, really bad ways. And I had to learn to keep my mouth shut. But I just am a hard-headed guy. And I said, no, this has to get out. And then when Carrie wanted to interview me, I told her the day she wanted to do it was a week prior, and I couldn't do it. I told her I can't do it. And then a week later, I got on there, and I just spilled out of me because that was the day I could do it. I couldn't do it a day before. It's the joke's on us, man. April Fool's Day. It's all about, it's a game. And so when you have your perspective right of the controllers, the reason I only use the word controllers is so people understand it, and they allow me to do that because it's a derogatory word. It's a derogatory term. It's degrading them. They are not controlling us. We are allowing them to play in us. Okay? They just offer up suggestions. They're not moving your arm. They're not throwing you in bed with somebody. You're deciding those things. They're just going along for the ride. Okay?
Yeah.
So it's as damaging to them as it is to us. It's a symbiotic relationship. We're intertwined with them. much like the microbes inside your gut. We're intertwined with them, like the E. coli. And they're not, it's a perfect game. Things are moving along perfectly. This revelation is coming across perfectly. I'm being told how to say it. I'm being told how to refine it on a daily basis. The more I discuss it, the better I am at explaining it. And I will say it again and again and again. Get it right. These guys, I call them my friends. I love these guys. They are my teachers. They brought me to where I am. If it wasn't for them, I would not be who I am today. I need them, and they need me. And this is allowed to be said. And when it's said with the correct perspective, they give their respect. Like a fist bump. Boom, respect.
Do you think that
serious about it. What?
Do you think that the world leaders are all working with the controllers?
Sure. The controllers, they take a kind of like think of it like, what would I call it? It's almost like a passive role where they just kind of like offering suggestions. They like to keep this is as addictive to them as it is to the freaking world leaders, man. It's like heroin.
But it's almost like the controllers all know each other, and all the world leaders know each other, and they have their own little games that they play with each other, and we're all sitting here watching.
Yeah.
And it's like, what are they going to do now? Are we going to have a conflict, or and meanwhile they're like,
well, they're feeding off of our fear because we're watching this nonsense going on, and we're like, holy cow. And it kind of freaks us out, and they feed off of that. And the power transference of our fear goes to the world leaders, and they think they're getting a boost. They're getting a boost out of it. And so what the controllers do is basically the law of cause and effect is on us, not them. They're just kind of along for the ride. They just kind of set it up. They don't.
And a level of helplessness that people have, thinking that they don't have power. They don't have.
Story. I'll really explain this. It's the same every time. So, a year and a half ago, I confront Billy Meier's #1, this guy Christian in Zurich, and he comes back with a lame answer, like it has to do with world overpopulation. And I wrote him back, and I said, "That's an answer I'd expect from a cult. Why don't you spend some time studying what I sent you? I have proven to you that the weather is being manipulated with machinery all throughout the planet. As a pilot, I've had to study this. As a commercial pilot, I've had to study weather for years. And what I have absolutely determined, and I can prove it, the weather is being 100% manipulated throughout the planet." And so they're moving the jet stream, the polar vortex in the North Pole, and they're using that to steer the atmospheric river. And that's why you're getting these bizarro, super hot, super cold days, one after another in America during the wintertime. It has to do with the polar vortex. It steers the atmospheric river. Also, it does winds, and it does like temperature changes. It's pretty powerful. And they figured out how to freaking manipulate it. Anyway.
So Billy Meyer's people figured that out?
So I tell this to Billy Meyer's people, and they come back and tell me, "Oh no, that's just overpopulation." And I wrote back and they said, "You know what? I'll give you grace on this because it takes like 2 years to study the information they gave you to come to the conclusion." And he wrote back, "I don't have 2 years." And I wrote back and I said, "Well, your answer sounds like a cult. Just claiming it's overpopulation is a cultish answer." And then what happens is something really bizarre. I get this like really livid, just crystal clear. It wasn't even a dream state. I don't know what it was. Twilight state. And Billy Meier shows up, and he's got these dirty socks, and he hands them to me, and I take them to throw them away, and he goes, "No, I want you to put them on." And then on the other side of him is a man in black, and he leaves them there with me. And then my wife loses her mind over a period of a week. I watch her lose her freaking mind. And
wow,
it was the most bizarre thing I ever saw, totally out of character. And what happened is that man in black that was inside her, I bet he got activated. So here I am. I'm going to do this really quick. I got 3 kids. I take them down to this bar here where we are. The kids can sit at the bar and eat. So we ordered hamburgers, and it happened to be her ex-husband. He's the bartender there. And we never go there. He doesn't know who I am. We just leave him alone. He's a real nice guy. And uh, this lady starts touching my little boy, and I ask her to stop because she's drunk. And I walk around the other side of the bar, and she's following me, and I don't want her to touch me. And I go, his name's David. I go, David, did you tell her to go back and sit down? And he goes, what's going on? And he tells her to sit down. And he goes, what's going on? And I go, dude, man, it's Lisa. I told him the problem. And he goes, what? Oh my gosh. And so he reaches out and he gives me a hug and he goes, oh, it'll be okay. And it was empathy. He gave me empathy. It was the bar. I was totally blown away by this, man. I didn't expect nothing like that. And when he gave me that, I call it the empathy hug. These men in black, like, jumped away from me like 50 feet. And when they did, I could see him and I could hear him talking. And they started coming together and they said, oh my gosh, you know, he's off our control at the moment. Or how would I say? He got free. Well, what do we do? Well, let's do this. Okay, hey, all right, guys. They all huddle up and they go, and they're just like right over my son. And each one of us had one of these guys hanging out with us. And they all come together and, hey, let's have her call the lawyer and get into family law and create chaos because he hates the courtroom. And now we'll really put some chaos in his life. And then he won't be able to put this message out. And we'll circumvent this whole freaking thing. And then they take off. They go, break. And they took off. And I grabbed the kids. I said, Reese, get the kids. We're going home. And I went home. And I sat down. And she walks in. And I said, did you call a lawyer? She goes, yeah. Did you talk to her about child support and alimony and all that stuff? Yeah. And I said, that wasn't you. That was the controllers, because I just heard them planning it out, and they came back and they told you to do it. When did you call? Oh, about 15 minutes ago. That was about how long it took for me to get home. And I realized something there, that these guys, that's why I call them the chaos creators. All I did is, because I was able to start hearing them again, is that I just decided not to go along with their plan. Is there a law that says I'm not allowed to not go along with their plan? Does anyone say? Is there anyone that want to stand up and say I can't do that? Well, I can do that. And so as you start doing this again and again and again, you start hearing these guys start hearing these stupid suggestions, and then you start backing off. And because once you get to that divine love, they're going to hit your family up. They're going to hit you up. They're going to try and find the weak link. And that's their game. Because now you've kind of crossed the pond of no return. Mm-hmm. And they're supposed to do that. It's kind of like, I relate it like this. This is the George Carlin joke. The homeless guy is on the street there so that when you're driving to work and back, you won't quit your job because he's scaring the hell out of you. Kind of something like that. So they're there to scare the hell out of you, literally, so you don't go back. It's kind of like when you get out of prison, the guards treat you like crap, but when you leave, they actually shake your hand and say, don't come back now, you hear? You know what I mean? It's the relationship. So if you want to be in prison, do those things that get you into prison. If you want to be free and connect to these higher dimensions and get above these laws while you're still here, I think that will do a good thing for you. I think that will do a good thing for everyone. I think that will take us in a direction that will save the game and save the earth and save the ability for others to follow behind us to play this game for their own edifications. That's the real deal. That's the real story. I'm now allowed to tell it. I'm allowed to reveal it because it's just, I'm pulling the curtain back. As crazy as it sounds, it's like applause. They're applauding this because I'm doing it with the proper perspective, the proper intent, the proper heartfelt connection, and with the proper discipline. This takes a little discipline, not a lot, but a little discipline. When you connect to a higher level being, and all these people that say they're connected to higher level beings, they're not. It's just the controllers talking through them. When you connect to a higher level being, you have to realize they operate under higher laws. And if we're operating under our third dimensional laws, we're allowed to do anything we want. It's like dragging them through the mud. They don't want to do that. When you get to this divine love element resonance, you naturally realign within yourself and you just start living at these higher dimensional laws naturally, because that's who you really are. That's who we really are. And then these ones, they want to connect to us. And as that's done, beautiful balancing effect starts to take place, this thing I'm talking of, this interconnective framework like spider web, needs to get around the entire planet. I'm just a reference. That's all I am. Once this gets passed on to 5, 10, it's just like the velocity of the freaking virus, man. It'll roll through the planet like this virus. The velocity of it is rapid and instantaneous. And so think of it like this. It's perfectly planned that we went into a pandemic with the release of COVID-19, which has an extremely high velocity rate, but as we find, the mortality rate of it isn't really as bad as we thought. So we don't have to fear so much about we're all going to die. What we have to realize is this is the exact similitude of what I'm passing on to you now. How funny it is that when America went on lockdown on April 1, which April Fool on you, that it was the same day I was allowed to come out and talk. You are not having any negative ramifications for everything I'm talking about. And you know that in the past, if we had this open discussion on live air, it wouldn't go so well. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, there's been times when I've had discussions like this where, you get hit. That's the best way I could say it. You have problems, you have, conflicts, things show up in your dream space, or, when no one's around, you can feel the presence of energies. So yeah, I mean, it opens up, Pandora's box sometimes, depending on.
How's it feel now?
No problem. No problem.
There's a reason for it.
I did have a really weird thing happen last night, but I felt like I was in some kind of vortex spinning. It was a very weird. And when I woke up, and I'm telling you, I never have this problem. I literally couldn't walk. It was like I was drunk or something, or my equilibrium was completely off, and I'm like, I have no idea where I went. I don't know what was going on, but it was the weirdest. Very weird experience.
That's called a realignment. You're having a realignment. You're allowed now to talk, and so in order to be able to talk, you're being realigned to be able to talk about this stuff.
Yeah, because otherwise, like you said, it was, if you talk about it, there were repercussions.
Oh, big ones, weren't there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was spiritually attacked 9 months ago. I was urinating blood for 2 weeks straight around the clock. Every hour, at least on the hour. Every 15 minutes, every 2 minutes, I was peeing blood for 2 weeks solid. I got attacked really hard. I almost died from it because basically my wife didn't believe after I booted him out and all that stuff. She didn't believe it, so I challenged him. I called him out, and you don't want to do that. They slapped me upside the head, and I was in bed for 2 months solid. I was in bed mostly for 4 months, 5 months. And in that period, my bowels stopped working. I started peeing blood around the clock. And then I'm slowly recuperating now. So I'm on the mend now.
So did you ever go to the doctor, and did they say there was any reason for this? Because we know that it's a spiritual attack.
My wife's a doctor.
Oh.
So it was like I would be wasting my time and my money. They would think I was like a Looney Tune. There's nothing you get.
What did she say to you? What did she think it was?
Physically, there's nothing wrong with you. I don't know why you're having this problem. And so I told her I was attacked.
Yes.
And she said, what happened? And I said, well, they came into my guts, and they ran a rod right through my guts, and then they grabbed my lower descending colon, and they squeezed it tight and shut it off for 2 weeks. And so I didn't eat. And it was interesting. I was in flight school, flight training, and getting my flight instructor's licenses. And I was the only one that passed everything. Even though I was going through this horrible experience, I was the only one that passed all the tests. All the other guys that passed one. Most of them didn't pass any. So I don't know what to say about that. It's just interesting that the extremes that my life has been. On one side, I'm feel like I'm in my deathbed, and on the other side, I'm flying planes and I'm passing, and I can't tell anyone I'm peeing blood because my medical would have been pulled. It's kind of like a very, very bizarro lessons I've learned. I've learned that what I can say to everyone is, you can do this. If I can do it, anyone can do it. because I'm the stupidest guy in the block, man. And it was held right in front of my eyes my whole life, and I literally pissed on it. And it took these types of events to get me to my knees and drop me down to my deathbed to get me to go to the Kahuna and say, help, help. And he goes, okay, come over here. Let me tell you what's going on. Let me help you out. Let me give you some connections and let me clear out your heart. And he's going, blew all that darkness out. And it's just like, wow. And, it's kind of like he just cleaned me up and like, okay, you got your boo-boo cleaned up. You can go on your own now. And then I come back for a tune-up and they go, okay, you can go now. So it's never been like him, like tweaking me, paying money and like meditate. Ooh. It was all me. It was all my intention. It's all intention. Intend to get to your heart consciousness and find that element of divine love, that resonance. And if you can't, I'll give it to you. Just walk over me and you can have it. And I mean, walk over me. You can walk over me like a lily pad in the pond and cross to the other side. I'm nobody. I have no ego in this. There is no ego in these higher dimensions at all.
Right.
It's
absolutely.
Ego that holds us back. It's like this. If you think you know something, God will stand back and say, oh, you know it. Okay, go ahead. Let me know when you're done. He's a real joker, man. I'm telling you, man. He's the joke. When you get up, as I started moving through all this stuff, the sense of humor out there it's really cut and dry. It's really quite funny. And it goes something like this. So who do you think you are? And Kia, he goes, he's the Kahuna. He goes, well, he's looking around. I'm nobody, really. I'm nothing. But yet there's everything, but yet I'm nothing. And Papa E goes, that's correct. You got it. And so Kahuna goes, well, then if I'm nothing, can you show me what I don't know? If I don't know anything. And the Papa E goes, checkmate. No. So it's all about checkmating. Think of it like that. It's all about checkmating. Okay. And that rule book, how to checkmate, is inside our spirit. And the way we get there is through that divine elemental resonance of love. And that resides in our heart. And it seems that it has not been like laid out to everybody on the planet, but the only way it can happen now is that it is transmitted to each of us through a net. Like it's like a virus. We just talk about it. A good
virus.
Yeah, we talk about it with the next person and the next person, and it just starts spreading out. And the whole idea is to create like a neural network around the entire planet, like a net. And then it'll allow, okay, I'm going to tell you some things now. In the midst of these connections, the Kahuna, it's like an initiation. Like, yeah, I don't know what they are. I don't know what to call them. Connections, that's all I can say. Different dimensional ones would appear and would talk, and I could see them, but I couldn't hear them, and he would tell me what they were saying. And it went something like this. The Earth human, let's just cut to the chase. The Earth human is a scourge to this planet. They change the weather mechanically. They do all harm to nature, and they kill things they touch. They do nothing good whatsoever with the things they know. They live in their head and not their heart. And they're like the fleas on the dog's back. They need to be removed. The worst of it that will come to them will be belayed. Basically, if this like neural network runs around the planet, the worst of what we deserve will be circumvented by allowing this process to take place so that they can come in and stop the worst of things that will happen. They're here to save the planet, not us. We need to work with them to save the planet, but it ain't about saving us. The game is allowed to go to its bitter end. That's the way it was designed. Unfortunately, we're going to blow this planet to bits, and that cannot be done. So the intervention will be sort of like the day the Earth stood still. Not the first one, the black and white, but the newer one, the color one. The difference of that movie and the reality is that the lady talks the guy into not letting everyone die because he came there to save the planet. And so he shows mercy and doesn't let everyone die. And that's not going to happen. That was done for the Jesus thing, that Jesus is going to come and like save us. That's not going to happen. I'm sorry to tell it to all the people full of religion.
Yeah.
We can do another thing on religion that is very insidious. That was basically laid down by extraterrestrials like the Pleiadians. And it was done to control us. And again, when you hand something over to a human, they like to take it to the nth degree on the wrong side of the fence. They just go way negative on it. And so a friend of mine had every Bible written from the beginning to now, and they were looking for something that was keyed up in the Bible in the beginning. And as I'd asked them, I go, so after a year of study, what did you find out? He goes, well, we had the Mormons and the rabbis and the Jesuits coming all the time and working with us on it. And he said that what I discovered is that the language in the Bible the words were changed a little at a time from revision to revision on purpose to get more control over the human race. So the message of Jesus is so fragmented. It's only a tiny bit is in there. And this is what he was trying to say, but it's not there now. It was basically worded out. Words were changed to nullify it as though it doesn't exist.
They had to control the people. And the Latin Vulgate was a really big shift where they started changing things severely. And then when we got to King James, then there was another major. They had all sorts of scholars come together to update what they wanted to be updated in the Bible. But you're right. In those books that were eliminated or excluded, like the Apocrypha, that people didn't look at. I read through the Bible multiple times. Did Bible school, I did the whole thing. And when I started studying church history and the ante-Nicene fathers and all the historical writings, Herodotus and some of these others that were all involved in that time period, you start to really look at it and say, hey, wait a minute, how many changes have been made and kind of what were they leaning toward, what were they trying to control, and what were they afraid of, and you start to see that there's been alterations in the purity of what was said. They were concerned in some cases that it wasn't applicable to our current time, so they had to update meanings because the words maybe didn't convert well or whatever. But it was multiple languages. It was Hebrew, it was Aramaic, it was Greek. So there's a whole litany of things that were involved, but they were tampered with.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we'll never find what I'm saying through that source anymore. It's really unfortunate, but this is just what Jesus was trying to say. This is his message. Over 2,000 years later, we're still messing around trying to figure it out. We talk around it and never got to it. This is it. It's straight up.
In the world, the earth, when the earth stood still, what was the first movie that you said? The second one was reflecting the Christ appearing and resolving things. And the first one was, I forget how it goes.
You're responsible for yourselves, and we're here to warn you that if you want to take your wars out into space, you'll be annihilated. That's what the message was. That was correct.
That is correct. Yeah. I told you about this. We had been talking in between after the first interview that I did with you, and I started. We were talking, and then you had things that were going on. I had things going on, and then we talked again. And in between, you said, "Well, let's talk again at this time." And so I ended up browsing, and I find this video. And this video with Carrie Cassidy and Bill Wood, but I know him as I believe it's Bill Brockbrader, was another name that I knew him from my earlier years. That I'd interact with some of these people connected to him. And he started talking about Project Looking Glass and how that they saw all the timelines converge into one, and which came up to be about 2012, like the Mayan calendar. And they were trying to observe into the future and see what the outcome was. And no matter how they looked at it, it always came with the same result. And that was this destructive something coming to the earth. And then he was mentioning the game or the checkmate. And I thought it was quite interesting. I was like, I know that you guys, I didn't think that you had talked to him,
No,
or,
sure.
you know, I mean, it's like he was working in Area 51, according to the interview. And so I thought I had to see this at this time, because there's something here regarding the message of what you've been talking about, what you're allowed to talk about now. And, you know, I've had a lot of problems. I've been on radio for years, and I've had a lot of people say, I don't believe her, or, you know, challenging me, or me being in these really weird scenarios. And it's like, I'm pretty sure it's the controller type of thing, where it creates this forms of chaos and also blocks the, you know, the meaning. And so people are like, well, you know, why aren't you here? And you're, you know, none of it made any sense. So, and I knew why. I kind of threw that away a while ago and said, I'm not going to worry about it. You know, I'm doing what I can at this time, and that's my only responsibility.
Yeah, you're being brought along with that video to let you know that it is a game, that there is a way to checkmate it, that this process of this divine love resonance passing from one to another will checkmate the annihilation of the planet. It has the potential to checkmate that annihilation.
Mm-hmm.
And that it's coming from higher realms with higher laws. And it doesn't take like the whole planet to do it. It's a minority of people around the planet can do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'll be honest with you, the Kahuna was telling me that he's now ready, that he and I can travel anywhere we need to go and present this message and pass on this resonance, pass on this, think of it like a flag in the ground or the tuning fork, because it's actually inside his heart and he can pass it on. So that kind of blew me away when he talked about that, because I only did Carrie's show just as a one-time off. I was done. I was like, I'm never doing that again. And then
that was your first outing of your information.
Yep, first time.
Yeah.
And just kind of snowballed in, man. People came in. I started testing things. Just like 4 people that I've connected over the phone in different areas of the world, and I've had the Men in Black and others show up every single day trying to test me and everything now. And now they're as the relationship, as you do this process, it happens naturally, in your relationship with these controllers changes. It becomes quite positive.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, we can't live without them, and they can't live without us. And we move into this realm of this resonating divine love through our heart, then there is no more struggle. There's a different set of rules that apply at that point, different set of laws, and then it's kind of like a hands off. They don't mess with you. Oh, they'll mess with your family unless you start connecting with your family. And I gave an example earlier how I do it with my family, how I try things. I'm always trying something, you know. I'm just curious. So it's a matter of action. It's a matter of doing, and there is discussion that takes place, but it's more action doing. Taking an idea, well, let me try that, and it starts to flush out and bless them out. If a person is static, sitting in the room, thinking it's all going to happen in a meditation, they might as well just go have a beer. They'll have a better experience. Because what you're doing is building up endorphins or energy inside you, and you're getting kind of like a heroin high off of it, but it ain't going to do anything for you. Don't get anywhere. And that's why I just flat out said, no, meditation is a waste of time. There are some things that are beneficial about it, but for this particular thing, it's more.
You were talking about a particular thing. That's what it is. That's why I understood what you were saying. Yeah.
There's reasons. The meditation has great value, but it doesn't work in this case. It's due to the fact that this is supposed to be with you all the time, no matter what you're doing. If you're in law, medicine, a judge, anything you're doing, this will be in you. Your heart will have its re-knitting, so to speak. And what happens is really quite simple. Instead of making stupid decisions that are destructive, you start making better decisions that are productive. It naturally aligns that way. And the controllers stand back because you're now operating on a higher set of laws. And they want that to happen so that they can keep this thing going. It's a symbiotic relationship with us and them. It's not adversarial at all.
Mm-hmm.
We are our own adversary. They really don't have anything to do with it. They just kind of like feed on it. You know, if you're going to do it, they'll just party along with you. They're like your drinking buddy, that if you start drinking Bacardi 151, they'll say, have another.
Hey, do you want to answer another question?
Yeah.
A wonderful interview. This is by Victoria. She said, thank you for bringing someone with so much knowledge. Hope he comes back. After listening about Billy Meier cult and what's written in those papers, I'm finding it very similar to what I'm hearing of the Galactic Federation, both in Spanish and in English. People, it is for them in an alliance to save the world and get rid of the dark, deep state. And after we have a new world or a one world order, oh my God, are they all the same? Promising one thing, but under their terms. I don't know, but half of the planet is waiting for something or someone to save them. This interview was really good, and they said thank you.
Just connect to your to that elemental divine love residence within your heart, and if you don't know where it is, call me up. I'll pass it on to you, and I answer your questions from there on out. And that's really all you got to do. This is sort of like you're looking at a game board of potentialities that are negative, and you don't have to go with them. There's nothing out there that says you have to go with that. You can go with something else. See, in this three-dimensional world, we're allowed to play the game any way we want. It's under a certain set of rules. But if we want to cancel out the game, we move on to a higher set of rules, a higher dimensional set of rules. And then it cancels out. What you become is your own person, living in your own life with your own sense of self. Some would call sovereignty, basically taking responsibility for the things that are going on around, with taking responsibility for the things going on inside you. Because the things going on around us right now, we are not completely responsible for that, because we're not the ones causing the problem. It's sort of a collective causation, and we're just stepping out of it. The collective causal force of negativity, we just step out of it, and we no longer participate in it. And so we run under a different set of rules, and so do the controllers. And so they back off. But watch your family, because they'll go after your loved ones and help them out.
Yeah.
And so
Well,
what it does when you step across the pond, walk across me like a lily pad and get to the other side, it puts you in a position where you really want to pass it on, because it protects your loved ones. And
I think what she was saying, she realized that all of these different dynamics were, through listening to you, she kind of pieced it together, that she saw them as separate types of activity going on. And at that moment, she saw it was pretty much the same thing with a different face.
Yep.
Or
right.
Yeah.
Right. The reason I went down this road explaining this again is because I was trying to let her know what she should focus on. It's great that she saw this, but don't focus on it, because it's always the same. She could add 20 more things to that, and it would be the same thing. Like, they got one rule book, man. It's like a paragraph long, and they have to replay it over and over again. It's like a movie that you've seen remade. Maybe different names, maybe different settings, maybe different times of the future or the past, but you're seeing the same freaking thing every time in a movie. It's really the same storyline. So that's what she's noticing. Hey,
she said, she noticed that it was something clicked and it opened up for her. Yeah. So we have another question from Anthony. Lovely interview from both Jessica and Bob. I do have one question. In the Kerry interview, Bob spoke of Daddy Bush, John McCain, and other aliens plotting wars all around the world in the committee of the 300 organization. Then Bob speaks of the nefarious Pleiadians linked with Billy Myers, who are extremely negative and don't appear to like the humans. Are the committee of 300 aliens and the Billy Meier aliens all part of the same group, working together, or are there more that are one group controlling humanity?
All these ETs are all working. They all know what's going on with each other for the most part, and they're all like in on it. So there's no one group. the ones that I saw over the Committee of 300 were like the men in black. Okay, I see them all the time. I didn't see reptilians over there. Maybe the reptilians are involved in the Luciferian rituals that they do. Maybe that's where the reptilians lie. But I have not had any encounters with them. So when people really get all wrapped up about these guys, that's not the focal point. In regards to the Pleiadians, the Plejarans, here's the thing. When Billy starts talking about these guys, they tell him, we're the Pleiadians. So he goes around the world telling everyone they're the Pleiadians. Then they come back and they say, actually, we're the Plejarans. So anyone using the term Pleiadian is not part of us. So you got people out there saying Pleiadian, you got people saying Plejaran. And so they did that on purpose to create a division in their name itself. Who the heck does that? Who plays games?
I was wondering how that happened.
Yep.
Because, well, some people call them the Plejarans, right?
Yeah, the Plejarans. I mean, this is a pronunciation of the Plejarans. And so right off the bat, these guys are playing games. They're gaming. They're not here to help us. They're here to continue the game. They were supposed to throw out just some half-assed spirit teachings to get people kind of like maybe taking a little responsibility for themselves. And what they did is they turned it into a cult, waiting for their next bated breath of Billy's stroke of the pen to come out so that they can translate it and read it and like, oh my God, oh my God. They call him Beam, Billy Edward Albert Meier. Now I just call him the Beam God. So all you guys now want to talk about Billy Meier, the Beam God. You know, I'm being kind of like in your face a little bit and a little bit facetious about it, but I'll do it to show the ridiculousness of it. Why not tell the truth straight up instead of causing stupidity to happen in another person's life? You know, in the Bible it says if you do harm to a child, better that you have a millstone around your neck thrown in the ocean than to cause harm to that child. You're just causing yourself a lot of harm. In the case of Billy Meier, it appears to me that there are like men in black or Plejarans, or I don't know who they didn't appear to be Plejarans. I don't know who they were, but they seem to be around him all the time, watching everything he says and does. And he's like kind of like shackled in a way. By agreeing to all these things with the Plejarans, he's kind of shackled himself in a way. I know that he really wanted to put out the information and tell the truth and get people and give them help. He did it with a good, sincere heart, but he's been shackled. And so I think this visit 18 months ago where he's passing me on his socks is like, here, since you think you're so smart, I'm passing on the baton, walk in my shoes. I kind of felt like that. And I'm like, dude, I don't want to do that. And so in order for me to be able to do that, I had to be free. In order to be free, I had to find that divine love resonance within my heart. In order to be able to do that, I had to find the Kahuna, because he has it and he passed it on to me. And I am to live in it all the time now. And it's just the process. It doesn't you can get the resonance instantly, but then after that, it's a series of life decisions for the rest of your life. What do you want to do? How do you want to experience and express this? Do you want to go further in it, or do you want to stop, or do you want to back up? There's no judgment in any of that, not at all. That's what the 3D world is built for. So it's really everyone's choice how far they want to go. But if we can all get this resonance together, then it allows the higher level beings to come into play under different laws, different rules, and it allows things to, I don't know, I guess reset. I'll know more later about how to say it, but right now it just kind of appears to be a reset. It's not really a reset. It's not a redirect. It's something different. I'm not quite sure what it is yet. I have to do this and keep playing this out to see what it is. So I think I have to get around. I think I have to travel and talk to people. There's a book being written right now. It's going to cause a reaction to anyone that reads it. I'm letting it all out. I pulled the curtain back and I'm telling everything. And some people are going to throw it against the wall. They're going to get really mad. And other people are not going to understand it. And others are going to really resonate with it.
Are you going to talk like an insider, like from what you experienced in your military, or how, from what perspective are you going to be coming from?
The elemental divine love resonance. and the game itself from a high level, what this world was created for, what it's all about, what its problems have been that brought us here, just where we are in the current situation. I don't really care how we got here, where we are right now, and what can we do about it. And it's about this divine love resonance within our heart. The book is meant to have the resonance in it so that when those who read it will be able to, I guess, have a resonating experience with it. But the Kahuna, I mean, I'm just being honest with you, I'm really kind of like shy about saying this, but he said we're going to be traveling around a lot to talk about this. He's going to go out into the world, talk about this.
That's awesome. Yeah.
He's really, if you ever have a chance to meet him, man, he's the coolest guy. He's like, I don't know how to explain him, man. He's not really, I don't know how to explain him. You just have to, if you were walking down the grocery store with him, picking up some apples while you're walking by for the potatoes, you just walk right by him. You wouldn't know nothing. But when you turn and he turns to you and starts talking to you, there's nothing, he's just a guy, but what resonates out of him from his heart, it's everybody. Let me put it this way. In Molokai, on the island of Molokai, there's a little spit of land 4 miles out to sea and 4 miles wide. It's called Kalapapa. It's the leper colony. From the early 1800s on to currently, there are 5 lepers still living there. They like to be called the cured ones, though, because the leprosy was cured a while back. And 2 people went there from the Catholic Church that became saints. That's the only place in the world where 2 saints came out of one spot. The place produced miracles, but when he went there a few years ago, you could cut the sorrow with a knife. The negativity was so thick, it would like take your life out of you. I would sleep for 3 days after I went there and come back. There's a little airport there I'd fly into and out of. In the process of, this is a really cool story, man. We were talking about it last night. Like, he and I talk about it every day. And so I fly in there with my little 3-year-old girl at the time. And I have a couple friends with me, and he's talking with them, and I'm holding her in my arm, and he's like standing right next to me. And I tell you, he did not register in his mind that she was with me. There's a law. You have to be 16 or older to be there. And if you're under that, you get arrested. Like they'll come, they'll be waiting at my house when I come home. And so we get on the bus and we go on the tour, because the only way you can go through the leper colony is on a tour. And he was a tour guide, and that's how I met him. And so he's telling these stories. I'm looking at him like, I was fascinated with him the first time I met him. I go, man, this guy is really cool. I like this guy. Super simple guy. And so we go off, and about halfway through the tour, we're coming up on Father Damien's church in the bus, and all of a sudden he starts hearing my little girl cracking up in the back with me. We're like tickling each other, and in that little tiny voice, is there a little girl on this bus? Oh my gosh, we're going to get arrested. I'm going to lose my job. We can't, there hasn't been a child here for over 100 years. It's illegal. When the people had children, the nuns immediately took the children and put them in a boat to Oahu. They never heard a child play. They never heard a child cry. They never heard a child laugh. They never saw a child. These are all the lepers.
Wow.
And so she was the first child ever to cross the grounds of the leper colony ever. And so we're cruising along, and we walk into Father Damien's church, and I could feel and I could see all of the people, the people had died, passed on, and others, the other ancient ones, were all standing far away, like 100 feet away, 200 feet away, just staring, just like they didn't know how to take it. All the spirits were just staring. And so anyway, he goes, I got to take it back. You got to get to your plane and get out of here if I get caught, man. We're busted. We're going to go to jail. I'll lose my job. And so I flew home. I was talking to him about it last night. That was like a little over a year ago. And I said, did that have an effect on Kalapapa, on the leper colony? He goes, oh, yeah. It had a leveling effect there. What you did was kind of like, I didn't see the child. It was meant to happen. The first child ever to walk in Father Damien's church, ever to walk the grounds of the leper colony, had a balancing effect there, that sorrow and negativity is no longer there. It's now a joyful place. And then the pandemic came down and everyone was laid off, so everyone's gone there now. But he did his job. That was what he went there for. He was told by higher level ones that he was supposed to go there to do that. And so it was kind of like I guess bringing my girl there kind of like really gave a boost to the process. But I'm just telling you that he did that single-handedly. You know, I just happened to like do a stupid mistake and almost get in trouble. But he did it single-handedly. He turned that 8,000 lepers buried in mass graves everywhere. It's a mass graveyard. You have no idea where people are buried. And the sorrow, see, they would rape and pillage and kill and pedophile and torture and enslave, sex slaves, because the cops wouldn't go there because they didn't want to get leprosy. They got away with everything, and they did everything. And when Father Damien showed up, he put a stop to it. An incredible man. And the negativity got out of hand, and the Kahuna went there, and it's now a joyful place. So he's an interesting guy, and he did it through this divine elemental love that was within his heart. And I started asking him, can I have that? Can I talk to these guys? Can I talk to the higher ones? Can I do this? Can I do that? And he would look at me like, okay, here, come here. And he was, I kept asking him. And that's how it went. You know, it was just like a kid. I was just like, I love it. I love this stuff. His name's Kiahi. And I go, man, can you show me this? Can you tell me that? And so lately, he's basically, if you're talking to me, you're talking to him now. And I'll leave it at that. I need to leave things for him to say. He'll say it. I think we'll be going places to, I don't know, conventions or whatever, where he'll talk to crowds, large crowds, and he'll pass it on.
Would he ever come on the show?
No. That's
even with you? No.
He'll go out to the public, but he won't come on the shows. He won't write it. He does have a book that's all written. It needs to come out. We'll get on that in a few months. Have it out. And go ahead. I want to tell you some of the mysteries of Molokai. Go ahead though first.
Well, when I really opened up, I was doing some like mediumship, and you talk about dabbling in certain things. Well, I was, I grew up in Massachusetts, so we were surrounded by Wiccans and all sorts of stuff. So, tarot cards and all that, and I started opening up and started to really start to investigate and try to figure out a lot of the weird spiritual things that happened to me since my childhood, and I read like 40 books in 1 year. You talked about reading a lot until I got to this one book, and it was The Art of the Huna, and I couldn't finish it. And that and it stopped right there. I read everything. I read about, the Mayan stuff. I read the Egyptian stuff. I read the Celtic stuff. I mean, I went right across. I just want to understand it all, and take it all in, and actually felt, because I did also a lot of past life work for myself, Akashic records, past life regressions. I did everything, all in this short period of time. Got very immersed in it. And but once I got up to that book about the Huna, I got up to, I don't know, I want to say it was 3/4 of the book. And then always distractions. It was always something stopping me from finishing the book.
Well, now you get the rest of the story. This is the rest of the story.
I guess it's kind of weird because I'm hearing you talk about the Kahuna, and I also had a story, one of my past lives, where I was living on an island, one of the islands, and there was a Kahuna. It was like the two races. One was Polynesian, one was another. And what is it?
Maybe Tahitian.
And there was like, we would silently, kind of see each other. We'd kind of go for walks and see each other looking at the moonlight. And then we ended up coming together. And that was a past life that I had where I ended up getting married. And I saw myself connected to the island. So I was curious about it, and I started reading that book, and I never got 100% through the book, and I never could figure out why, but I knew there was some reason why I couldn't finish that book.
Well, you're finishing it now. You're
Yeah.
experiencing it. Yeah, it's an interesting thing with him. I would have those experiences with him. He would go on and talk and talk and talk, and it sounded like Charlie Brown's mom. What? And I don't know what he's saying, but yet all these changes started happening inside me. There were energetic connections he was creating for me, and then those connections, I started creating realignments and changes. And now, where I am currently is, I see energy now. I see the energy of people, what they're emitting, where their issues are, what I can help them with to get this connection in them. That's my role right now. I won't be here forever, but right now that's my role. It'll be something different. This is only for a short time, and so I just suggest people take advantage of it, because he said he's willing to travel, man. Take advantage of it, because he's the only one on the planet like him. There's no one on the planet like him. Billy Meier will have to take a seat to this guy. And I know Billy's not going to like that. He's got an ego, and that's where he falls short. Your ego will take you out of the game and put you in this game. Take you out of the big game and put you in the little leagues. This is the little leagues. You want to go to the big leagues. To do that, you got to get rid of your ego. Not get rid of it. You just got to put it aside and let it rest.
Well, it's time for people to go out and start helping, because all of this that means that all of this has to lift. All of this has to lift so you can travel.
Yeah, exactly. It will.
Yep.
It will. Trust me. But okay. I could say a lot about it and what will happen, but look here. We don't have to go out and do anything. We just do it in ourselves. That's all. Look, all that's being asked is that we go with intent, put the ego aside, go with intent into the divine elemental love within our heart. And if we don't have it, just talk to me. I'll pass it on. And then that's it. That's really it. Then you just start, as daily events happen, you're looking within at this resonance, and it's sort of realigning your decision-making processes little by little. And instead of making like decisions that many people have lives where they build up their wealth or whatever, their relationship, and then crash, build up, crash, build up, crash. Well, that stops. It starts to kind of do this flat line, and then it starts to ebb up, and it'll go as far as you want. There's no limit. There's no end to it. Just whenever you want to stop, you can stop. There's no judgment on it. Maybe you have to stop for a few centuries and sit there and then begin again. I don't know. It's whatever you want to do. And that's all you got to do. That's all you got to do. It's called running the bases. You already hit the home run coming here. You just got to run the bases. And run the bases mean continue on with your normal life. It's within your normal life that the flower and the blossoms of the element of the resonance of the divine love within will show itself within daily life. Not meditation, not for this. Meditation's for something else. It does other stuff, not this. This is intent. It's living action, active, moving forward, living your normal life, moving side ego, using your intent to move into your heart consciousness, looking for that love in there, that divine element of resonating love. And if it's not there, I can pass it on. The Kahuna can come out and see you, not personally, but you have to do it in large groups, and possibly this book. We're trying to write the book in a way that the resonance will be in the book itself. There's going to be a lot in the book, not just this resonance. A lot of things in the book. People are going to have a reaction to it, and that's what it's meant to do. It's meant to do. It's meant to wake up. So. It's the light in the darkness. And it's all fun.
It's fantastic. I feel like, the first show was part 1. This is part 2.
Yeah, we can get into more stuff. People send in questions. You can put my email out there. It's CFI Hawaii cfihawaii@gmail.com. No, Yahoo, sorry. cfihawaii@yahoo.com. It's Charlie Frank India Hawaii @yahoo.com. That's it. I hardly ever used it, so I had to think about it. And yeah, I'll help anyone that, I'm here as an open book to help anyone. And I don't have an ego. I do, but I just set it aside. It's not about me, I'm just a pass through. That's all I am. I'm just passing stuff through. I have no interest in being an insider telling an inside story. This, that, look at that, look at that. The price I would pay doing that is too great. I would damage people and myself. There's enough we look at in our daily life. Just getting in our car, the car's broke down. I need an oil change. I got a bad tire. There's enough just of that in our own personal lives. There's no reason to go out there looking around and add more to our more nonsense to ourselves. So we add a process to ourselves, and we add love to our life within ourselves, and then it starts to resonate out slowly, and we wrap that around our family members, and then that kind of goes out a little murph outside our house to our neighbors, and then it goes to our township, and then it goes like a virus. And the controllers are there to test everyone, to see if it's coming from within their heart or if they're regurgitating it because they heard it from somewhere else. And that's the test. I'm sorry, I would like to condense this all down into 15 minutes, but realize as I'm talking this out, it like reveals itself to me as I talk it out. I have to actively practice these discussions to get this more dense and concise for people.
Well, throughout the ages, the tribes would sit down on a fire and they would tell stories. And it wasn't just random stories. The stories had purpose and meaning, and it didn't happen in 1 hour. And then they rushed off somewhere. I've done sweat lodges and other things. This is a whole day. It's a whole process of gathering the wood. It's getting the grandfathers, which is the rocks, right, and putting everything where it should be. It's the interchange between the people. It's preparing the food and the prayers and all this other stuff that you do. It's a part of it, and so it's not 1 hour. It's the whole experience.
Do you know that the Kahuna taught me to do this in 15 minutes and not a whole day? This can be 5 minutes, 15 minutes. We're in there. The reason he said
but the explanation, though, is longer. It has to be longer than 15 minutes.
That comes later. It comes later. That comes later. First this, then that comes later. That reveals itself later. It's a reverse process. See, this is called the shortcut. When I remember before I was born, I said, I want a shortcut. Well, I ended up meeting the Kahuna, and he showed me the shortcut. And he did it. It happened really fast. And I go, oh, I get it now. Instead of spending a whole day doing all these things to get prepared to get to this moment, just go to the moment. And he goes, right, just go to the moment. He goes, I can take your whole day and do all kind of stuff, but let's just get this done, get it over with. And so he and I both learned something. And Palo Mayombe, I learned how to do shortcuts instead of the ceremonial process of the works that we did for people that came in that wanted things. And when I discovered that, I took it before the spirits and I asked them, I go, is this shortcut correct? And they go, yeah, it is. You can do that. But we'd like you to do it the long way because, we like to tie it into us. And so the shortcut is what I offer. Let's just get it over with, get to the point. All of these other things will reveal themselves as needed. You don't need to reveal them and then get to this. You don't dig a hole to get to this. You get to this and it pulls you out of the hole. Because you don't talk around it, you go to it. And so the Kahuna is direct. He is right. He was just like, boink. He pins the nail in the donkey every time. And he just like ticks you right there. And he perfected it. It took him the last 15 years, he's perfecting it. People came from all over the world to see him. He doesn't talk to anyone anymore. He's past it. It's like spiritually throwing up for him to be around people anymore, because it's the same thing over and over and over. And then they don't do anything with it. And then they go home and then they talk like they're all spiritual and everything. And it's just a joke. He wants people to really get it. So I'm kind of like on the front line. I'm allowed to talk as long as I want to anyone I want, go into the nonsense as deep as I want with them, the darkest I want, the lightest I want. It's all up to me. If I see that it's having value for them, I'll do it. I'll walk the filthy road with them and walk them out of it if it needs to be. But you got to understand, that's what a Navy SEAL does. So maybe that's why I became a Navy SEAL, to demonstrate that I can actually do that, because that's what we do in the SEAL team, to the bitter end. So there's no quit in me. You're not going to bend me. You're not going to stump me. No one's going to come along and think that they know more than I do. They're not. The difference between me and them is I did it, and they studied it around it, and I did it. That's the difference. And I'm willing to just show people how to do it, go directly at it. It just saves time. We got to save time. So let's go save some time, and then save all that preparation time and go have some fun.
Yeah, that sounds good. It's you know, I mean, there's many different ways to look at things, many different processes, and yeah, there's something valuable in the long process, but you don't always have the opportunity to do the long process. The shortcut, it makes a lot of sense too.
Yeah, I think I've done both, and there's value in both. Absolutely,
Mm-hmm.
value. I don't knock either one. It's just a choice. Which one do you want to do, or do you want to do both, or I don't know, combination of them? It's up to you. There's no judgment in this. Everyone's learning and growing. It's all, the game here is about learning, growing, and having experiences. It's just they're all negative now, and it doesn't have to be that way. It's up to us.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Bob, this has been wonderful. I appreciate your time. I know that you're a busy guy, and you know you got great family and all sorts of good things going on over there.
Yeah, I gotta go chase them.
Yeah, but in between there, you get some answers for some people, and I think it's, you know, for me, this is a type of thing I like to add to the channel.
Thank you.
So it's part of the toolbox. You know, we talk about taking care of ourselves physically. We talk about all different things, but this is another way to, you know, not get into the level of fear, but actually, you know, this is a point where, you know, you're told to stop, reevaluate, assess, or shift or change whatever it needs to happen at this time, which is important, and align with the earth and where the earth is going to go. So this is fantastic. It's perfect.
Yeah, you're really, you know, some of the things we talked about off the show were like, I was really, you brought pieces of the puzzle back in place and perspective for me from your life experiences that you shared with me, which is really, and we're all doing that with each other. We're all helping each other.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And even the questions, the people, I always read through all the comments, because there's some really, really amazing people out there. And even if they don't agree 100%, it's just sort of like, I understand where you're coming from, and people are at a place of hurt and frustration and feeling let down or whatever. And it's always realizing that when it comes down to it, we're all at that same level. We all have been through something that, and we're all learning, you know.
Correct. Yeah, we're all in this together. And
yeah,
the only thing I have to say is that this is a shortcut. It realigns everything rather quickly. He's perfected it. The Kahuna's perfected it, and he taught it to me, and it saved me, saved my family, it saved my kids. I can't. It's kind of, I really don't get into talking about all these things that happened. It was like a different attack every day, man. The Men in Black were walking through my house like it was their own. They would leave doors open. They would like spill the water on the floor. My little girl would come downstairs and it'd scare them because they think no one was home. This is a few days ago, and they spill all the water on the floor because they're drinking my water. What are you guys doing, man? You're making yourself like it's your house. Get in my. It can drive someone insane if they don't understand what's going on.
Yeah.
These guys are real. They're human. They're just kind of out of phase a little bit, so that we can't see them. But I as you get into these higher laws, you start to see them sort of like a You see them, but it's kind of like they're like perforated.
Oh, you showed me some pictures.
Yeah.
Of what the type of hat and everything. Do you have that?
I'm not
Should
able
I
to
get
pull it up.
Let me see if I can pull that up real quick. So is it okay for me to share?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah.
This was a new getup that had not been seen before. This was a couple days ago, and it appears to me that some of the men in black that were here went to a lady I'm helping in Australia, and it's like he bought his gear right downtown here on the tourist shop.
With the hat.
That's normally what they are. I see them as from the very beginning when I was introduced. They usually wear that Federo hat.
So then you have.
But this is another version of it never seen before. That it's like he went to the store here, bought that hat and that shirt and some khaki shorts, and went to Australia. Yeah, those khaki shorts, and then he went to Australia and went to it was like walking down the street from this lady's house I've been helping. Yeah, because they don't sell that hat in Australia. And it was like all brand new. And she goes, dude, that dude's out of place. And he looked like Michael Horn. That's the crack up about it, you know.
And Michael Horn is part of
the Billy Meier gig.
Billy Meier stuff. Well, maybe yeah. I mean, some of these guys are not guys, right?
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
I had a woman in Texas insist that she had this group. They were called the Men in Tan. She called them the Men in Tan.
Okay. Well.
Yeah, we're instead of men wearing black, men in tan.
Then we got a man wearing a straw hat, a yellow jersey, and khaki pants.
Mm-hmm.
And he's exactly like Michael Horn. And she watched him walking down the street by her house. That was like, I think 2 or 3 days ago.
Yeah.
So I think he went on vacation.
So the Men in Black have more than one, type of wardrobe that they present themselves in.
Yeah, it's the first time I've seen a different type of wardrobe.
Yeah. Yeah, this woman said that the Men in Tan came into her house.
Yeah, they go in your house.
They just walked into her house, told her, something that she did, and she said they freaked her out.
Oh yeah, that's what they want to do.
Yeah.
They want to freak you out.
She called up the police. That nobody knew anything about it. They didn't know who they were.
Waste of time. Yeah, they've been coming and going to my house for a long time, man. And I'm kind of like, all right, guys. I don't know. When you get into these higher laws, what some of the things happen is you're able to start like talking to these guys on a better level, like on a more even playing field, and they'll talk back to you. And I don't know, some weird experiences. Like the other day, I was just like, hey guys, they did something. They blocked a phone call and they started laughing, and they started laughing, and I started really laughing, and they started really laughing. All right, guys, enough of the party. You got to go. And so, they're not like walking around like all dreary and blah, they have humor too. So,
yeah,
interesting. So
it is. Well, I think, the more you know, the less you fear, the more you understand, and they're not going to go away. They'll be a part of this reality.
Yeah, they're part of it. Yeah, we need each other. Well, Jessica, thanks so much. I know you got to go, so I appreciate your time. I appreciate you letting me on the show. I'm just thankful that you talked to me, and don't say I'm crazy. I like that.
Well, if I say you're crazy, I'll have to admit that I am.
That's true. And you're totally normal. So I'll go with that one.
All right. Sounds perfect. Hey, but that gives us an opportunity to do it again. So we'll do part 3.
Thanks. I'll do it anytime.
All right. And sounds good.
Whatever they want to write in on questions, we'll just go through them.
Yeah. Yeah. We have a few we didn't get to today, but that's all right. Well, I'm going to say goodbye to everyone, and thank you very much, and continue to listen. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
You have been listening to Andronetalks Radio. Join us on YouTube channel Jessica Arael Morocco, and visit our website at www.jessicaaral.com. readings by Arael.com.